Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And brought out my meditation book. I thought we would do another meditation today. I was reading through the comments, and I was kind of trying to pull a topic from the comments, and I really couldn't get one. So if there are questions that you guys have, specific recovery, I would love to do some recovery-based videos over here, more of them. I do quite a bit over here, but if there are specific questions that you have about sobriety or recovery or my story, specifically about my story, because I only share my experience, strength, and hope over here. I'm not the expert by any means. But if you guys have questions on, friendships, toxic relationships, how to develop good friendships, relationships, therapy, counseling, grief, addiction, recovery, anything, ask any questions over here, life questions, and I'm more than willing to make a video out of it. I would love to do that. So I'm kind of like a Dear Peter kind of thing. At one point, I think when I first started this, I did 6 months in, I did do a Dear Peter kind of thing or whatever. But I think I have an email listed below that says Dear Peter, and then it has that specific email. If you don't want to leave it as a comment, you can email it to me as well at that email that's listed below, and I will see it. You can feel free to DM me on Instagram if you want to DM me, because I won't read your name in a video. I don't really read my DMs anywhere else. I just read them on Instagram. So anyway, but feel free to reach out to me for a topic. But today I thought that we would do another meditation because I kind of got away from them for a while. So let's look at September. Today is the 9th, September 9th. Let's look at the meditation. Okay, today's is on perspective. Now, I feel like I almost 100% know that I do that because I've done this one. Because in recovery, perspective is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm going to go back. The other day I talked about patience, right? And then I looked at the one for that day, and it was step 10. So I'm going to go to September 7th, and I'm going to talk about powerless over others. And then we might get to the one talking about perspective. Powerless over others, September 7th. Stop making excuses for other people. Stop making excuses for ourselves. While it is our goal to develop compassion and achieve forgiveness, acceptance, and love, it is also our goal to accept reality and hold people accountable for their behavior. We can also hold ourselves accountable for our own behavior and, at the same time, have compassion and understanding for ourselves. When we claim powerlessness, we are not claiming irresponsibility. We have no power to control others, what they do, what they did, or what they might do. We're stating that we are willing to end an ineffective life based on willpower and control, and we're beginning a spiritual, mental, and emotional journey in which we take responsibility for ourselves. We are not victims. We are not helpless. Accepting powerlessness when that is appropriate enables us to begin owning our true power to take care of ourselves. Today, I will avoid making excuses for my own or somebody else's behavior. I will let consequences and responsibility fall where they belong. It's such a great topic. I think in talking about, I'm trying to think of where to start with this. I think in talking about taking responsibility for our own actions, it's something that I don't think is, I think there's a few people out there that I think are born with it and know how to do it. I definitely was I had to learn how to do it. It was a taught behavior for me, right? And I'm still I struggle with it because I think it's not always just about you're wrong in a situation and taking responsibility. It's sometimes seeing your behavior or your actions through the eyes of other people, right? I think that's important sometimes. If it's a relationship that you care about, like with my husband, my dad, my stepmom, my cousin, my best friend, my sponsor, things like that. I don't necessarily, my mom taught me this saying years ago to not value the opinion of those people that I don't value to begin with. I don't feel like I need to hold myself accountable or be responsible to people that I don't think that have my best interest in mind to begin with. So it kind of excludes all them. But if I have people in my life that I love, that I've hurt directly or indirectly by something that I've done or something that I've said, then yes, I need to take responsibility for that. Often, I think, I'm not even sometimes aware of that unless it's brought to my attention. If I say something and I mean it to be, typically for me what happens is, my friends and I, we joke around with each other a lot. This doesn't really happen with my husband and I because we have, our humor is very similar, but with friends of mine, have you ever taken the joking too far, and then it's they don't understand, then they're like, did you mean that seriously, or are you joking? That doesn't even happen that often, right? But where somebody will say something to me, or I'll say something to somebody else, what you said kind of hurt my feelings, right? I think that's an easy moment to look and go, wow, I can understand why what I said hurt your feelings, and take responsibility for that. Deeper stuff, I think you probably need to consult other people with. But there are two things either happen in my life, right? When I'm talking about taking responsibility for myself. people either bring things to me and I'm like, I don't see any part in that whatsoever, and therefore I'm going to have to take it to my therapist or my sponsor. And many times my therapist and my sponsor will be like, yeah, you do have a part in that, you know? And sometimes I even have to inventory stuff, right? Like I said, this kind of stuff, I mean, my circle is so small today, I literally have 5 people in my life. So it's like, this stuff doesn't really happen that often. But when it does, you know, a couple times a year, I might like take that to my sponsor or my thankfulist, and then like with my experience, my sponsor kind of inventory it and look at, well, what is like the 4th column? What is my part in this, right? And sometimes that's hard for me. Thankfully, I have people around me, like my husband, like my best friend, like my sponsor, like my therapist, that will say, no, this is your part in this. Like, this is the part that you need. Like, maybe you could have said this differently. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I probably could. And sometimes I need to hear that from a source outside of the person that's coming to me. I think many of us do. So there are times that I'll look at something and I'll say, okay, I'm confused about what I need to own my part in this. There will be other times that I'll take that to somebody and somebody will say, well, the reason why, like my sponsor, my therapist, or, you know, Alex, Tanya, whatever, that I'll say, I don't understand what my part is in this. And they'll say, that's because you don't have a part in it. You're not in this. This has nothing to do with you. I'm not in everything that happens in the world, right? And not everything that I do in the world deserves taking accountability for. And neither does something that you do. Not everything do you constantly need to be saying, I'm sorry, and taking accountability for. Some things just are as they are, right? And I think also, when I really started noticing that was when I started setting boundaries and limits in my life. And people would say things to me like, you know, like, you weren't like this before. Well, no, I was a pushover before. When I started setting boundaries and limits in my life and I started saying, I'm not taking this anymore, and I started just ignoring people and ignoring things, was when, like, they pushed harder, you know? Like, people in my personal life would be like, I mean, I'm talking 20 years ago, right? Like, when I would do this, and then they'd be like, well, you're not the same person. You know, it's like my friend Tanya always says, that the moment that she started setting boundaries and limits in her life, that there were people that they didn't want her to set those boundaries and limits, so all of a sudden she was a bitch, right? Well, setting boundaries and limits doesn't make you a bitch, and you also don't need to take accountability. And a lot of times, those people in those positions that you're setting boundaries and limits with, it's uncomfortable for them because they've walked all over you for a very, very long time. So all of a sudden, what we find ourselves, or what I have found myself doing in those situations, is bending over backwards to apologize to try to make that relationship right. And then I'm like, oh, shake out of it. You've been doing this your whole life. Maybe what you need to look at is not trying to mend this relationship, but maybe this relationship isn't cohesive to your life today. That's why I only have 5 people in my life, right? Like, and you know what? I don't need a lot of drama and toxicity in my life today. My life is calm today, you know? I think when she's in here and she's talking about other people taking accountability, stop making excuses for other people. I did that for a long time too, you know, not just in conversations where I would say to other people like, well, the way that they act this way, or the reason that they did this was, and what I realized was I was making excuses for people instead of standing up for the person that was in the right. I was making excuses for somebody that was in the wrong because I really just wanted to mend fences. I wanted people to get along. I mean, I only have like 5 or 6 really close people in my life, but I have like 20 acquaintances, right, that I get along with. So that I would consider friends. That are just not like super close friends. And so, you know, throughout the year, I've had people that didn't get along. And so I'm very much a mending fences kind of person. Like, hey, let's just get along, you know, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you didn't look at this way, whatever. But then what I realized over time was I wasn't standing up for the person whose feelings got hurt was in the right. I was trying to like talk down the other person and get other people to understand it, because what I realized was that person probably wasn't going to change, right? Whereas the other person would be like, yeah, you're probably right. That's just who they are. Well, what I realized over time is I don't need people in my life, that that's just how they are. That I should just accept that that person's a nasty person, that they're rude, that they don't care if they hurt people's feelings. I don't need those people in my life, you know? I have my entire life made excuses for people. And I think that comes down to expectations. I think it's when I expect somebody to act like this and they fall very, very short of that then I make excuses for why they do. I think it's okay to make excuses for people over singular events or situations for not showing up to something or whatever. Like, well, maybe they had something going on or whatever. But when it happens over and over and over, this is where I'm at today at 52 years old. When I'm making excuses for people's behaviors that have become a pattern in their life, and their pattern, the end result is that my feelings are hurt or I'm hurt some way by it, then I've been making excuses so long and they don't feel bad for it, and I am collateral damage. And I'm not willing to be collateral damages in somebody's life. I don't care if I have nobody standing beside me except for my dog. I really don't. I'm not going to be collateral damage to somebody else. It's why the relationships that I have in my life today are reciprocal. It's why if somebody does say that I hurt their feelings and they come to me, I'm quick to take a look at it. And if I need to take responsibility for it, I do that quickly. That's what I was going to say. It's either like I'm confused, I don't understand what my accountability part is. That was the first example. The second thing that happens is when somebody comes to me and says something, I see it right away. I either don't see it at all or I see it right away. And I'm like, you're absolutely 100% right. Like, I took the joke too far. I'm really, really sorry. I don't want to, I will, and it's not just I'm sorry, it's what will I do with that afterwards, because that's part of amends and recovery. And then I'm also like, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt and I shouldn't have said those things. It's not just, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. It's like, I'm sorry I said those things. I shouldn't have said those things. And going further, I will be very careful with my words. Thank you. I appreciate that. I either acknowledge it and I can see it right away, or I don't see it at all. And I would say like 80% of the time that I don't see it at all, it's because I really don't have a part in it. You know, it's just somebody's not happy with whatever happened. But I don't make excuses for people in their lives anymore. I just don't. That's not my job, you know? It's not my job to fix everybody else's problems. I got enough stuff that I got to fix in my own life. I got enough healing that I got to do. I got to take care of myself. It's not my job to make excuses for somebody else, you know? When people want to know why I've withdrawn from a friendship or relationship, I tell them one time. I don't tell them 2 times. I don't tell them 5 times. I don't tell them 10 times. I'm civil. I'm nice. I respond to text messages. I answer phone calls. But you probably won't see me going out of my way to put any more time and energy into that friendship. Because what I've realized is, through the patterns, because I look at people's patterns today. I don't just look at one incident and make an excuse for it and move on. What I've realized is, with people in my life over long periods of time that are no longer in my life, you know, because the relationship just ended or my choice, is that over a long period of time, there were a few people in my life that I was making a lot of excuses for, not to other people necessarily, but to myself, on why they should remain in my life. Or they probably did this, or they probably forgot your birthday because of that, or they probably haven't reached out to you in 2 months because of this, or busy, or whatever. Even though you've texted them 5 times, they're probably just not seeing. I mean, I would make a million excuses, right? I don't do that today. Those are people that are not fighting for me in rooms that I'm not in. Those are people that are not choosing me. So I want to be around people. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on this earth, but as long as I am, I want to be around people that choose me. I want to be around people that I choose. Because that's a different kind of relationship. It is, when you're talking about choosing somebody, that's a ride or die. You got their back. They're loyal to you. They love you. They will own their shit and you will own their shit. They love you and you won't ever have to question it because you know it. You know it. And the people that are in my life, I know they love me and they know I love them. I know they got my back and they know I got their back. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm not at a point in my life where I want to worry about that stuff anymore. So if I have any kind of hint in that in a relationship, I just distance myself, or I have the conversation. I'll say, like, I'm confused about this. Many times we work through it, you know? Other times, it's the relationship just kind of fades away, you know? What's interesting is I've had through the years, I mean, we're talking about stuff that's happened 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? But what's interesting to me is that I've had a few people that have come to me that have been like, you know what, I've really noticed that you, like, distance yourself to me. Did I do something that hurt your feelings? And I'd be like, yeah, and I told you at the time that it hurt my feelings and that it wasn't the first time. You had done it several times. I'll be like, well, I don't want to do that to you anymore. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay. You know, and they're like, well, what can I do to make it up? And I'm like, well, I call you and text you. You don't call me and text me. Or when we talk on the phone, you don't ever ask me anything about myself. I ask you everything about you, but you don't ever ask me anything about yourself. You know, you're always just going on and on and on about all the problems of the world. This has been this way for years. You know, it's rather self-centered, and I just don't feel like I matter in your world whatsoever. Like, the words don't match the actions, you know? And they'll be like, oh, I can see that. Like, you're not the first person that said that to me. Other people have said that to me, too. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. And then it's like 3 months later, I hear from them out of the blue because they're lonely or they want something. And I'm like, you ain't checked in on me on 3 months, okay? And now you want to check in on, and I always respond. I'm always nice. Like, hey, it's good to hear from you, right? But I'm not going deep there anymore. No. Because your behaviors have shown me who you are. I'm not going deep there anymore with you. I'm just not. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. And it's patterns to me. It's not just a one and done. I'm not somebody that you screw me over, I screw you over. I'm not that person. I'm the person that you screw me over, I give you another chance. You screw me over, I give you another chance. You screw me over, I give you another chance. I've been that person for a very long time. To the point where, because I was so grateful that people gave me chances, you know? And also, some friendships are just not meant to be. Some relationships just aren't meant to be, you know? But I'm done making excuses for people. You know, I can't control other people's actions. I can't control what other people say. I can control what I say. I can control what I do. I can control whether or not I respond or choose to not respond at all. I can choose whether or not I just, you know, address something or keep it moving. I can address whether I put a smile on my face or a frown. When somebody asks me how I'm doing, I can choose whether or not I want to, you know, if it's somebody that I love and I care about, and if I'm struggling, and be like, yeah, I'm struggling today. But, you know, there's only a few people that I really feel that honest about that I can share that with, you know? I don't know. And, you know, and so I think for me, it really comes down to trust and a pattern of behaviors of how people have treated me in their life. And that's really, really important to me, you know? And I also, in all of that, I think what's important is to also take a look at my part in those relationships. Am I holding up? Like, when I got sober, my goal was to be the best son, the best friend, the best boyfriend, future husband that I could be, the best neighbor. And I have fallen short of that many times in my life. Many, many times. I will never be a perfect example of myself. I don't believe that you ever attain that in any lifetime, right? But I can work towards that. And every time I screw up, I can work towards improving that and being a better version of myself. And that's what I want. Not just for me, but for everybody, right? So I've got to take a look at myself in parts of things. But when over the period of like 2 or 3 years, I'm just sitting there and I'm going, why am I continuing to do this? Why am I continuing to waste my time, make excuses for somebody that they obviously don't really care about me? You know? Why? I wouldn't expect somebody to hold on to that friendship if I were treating them the same way. So why am I doing it? Because I have some romantic idea of what that friendship looked like 22 years ago? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. The people that I have in my life today, I know I can depend on, and they know they can depend on me. You know? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.